So we're going to go right into our What's Cooking segment. You made Bolognese sauce, and it was your daughter's birthday dinner, right?
Well, family party, yeah, so it's...
This past weekend, right after Thanksgiving, you were like, all right, I did all the Thanksgiving food, now it's time to go to those Italian roots. So you're going to tell us all about that.
Yeah, we had, I made the Bolognese sauce. There's the actual finished sauce, but it was to go in a lasagna. For the party, 25 or so people, and so you got ground beef, pork, and pork sausage are the three. I don't use veal. I don't like the idea of baby cows not getting a chance to grow up. Cherry tomatoes, portobello, crushed our whole San Marzano tomatoes, Varick Winery, white vignole, key part, pecorino romano. There's some nutmeg there, onions, carrots, green peppers. There's a lemon. Fresh basil, salt, pepper, crushed red pepper, olive oil, Italian seasoning, some sugar and cinnamon, which I tend to use a lot, some tomato paste, and garlic, lots of garlic. And look at those 2 slabs of prosciutto. Man,
oh my goodness.
Look
I
at
would
that.
just eat that on its own.
So we start by roasting the vegetables, or preparing the vegetables for roasting. And again, this is something, I made Bolognese a lot of different ways. And you don't have to roast the vegetables, but I kind of have really become almost addicted to roasting vegetables because it kind of transforms the flavor and adds this sweetness and this heartiness that you might not get if you did it. So you see, we're going to roast the garlic, we're going to roast the carrots, and we're going to roast the green bell peppers. And so I'm just cutting these things up kind of rough. You know,
I was going to say, is that the proper way to cut a green pepper?
Yes. I mean, I could dice it from there, but as you can see now, we're just going to douse them in oil and put some salt and pepper on top before they go into the oven. And I'm also going to eventually roast the cherry tomatoes, but I don't want to put them in quite so early. There's the sugar and cinnamon on top, heavy on top of those carrots, and a little bit on the mushrooms. And then we're going to slam that right into the oven at about 375.
I'm already thinking of the smells that are going to be going on in your kitchen.
So we're going to dice up the prosciutto. You can use pancetta. A lot of TikTok recipes, they use guanciale, which is like the cheek of the pig, but you don't see much guanciale at your local grocery store. But I use prosciutto. I went to the meat counter at Wegmans and had them slice me up a couple of thick ones. And then we're just a touch of olive oil. You don't really even need the olive oil, but and we're going to start frying up the prosciutto.
Goodness.
And the point of this is to render the fat out of the prosciutto as a base for the Bolognese sauce. Dice the onion while that reduces down in the pot.
Do you cry?
No, if you have a sharp knife and you know what you're doing, it doesn't necessarily make me cry. So take the vegetables out after about 15 minutes and just kind of move them around a little bit. You can see they're starting to char up, and then I squeeze a little lemon on there, and the camera's getting a little steamed up. But yeah, you can put lemon on almost anything and it makes it better in my opinion. So just a little lemon juice on top, and you can see now that's starting to render down, and you want to see some of it stick to the pan even. So now I'm going to just prepare those cherry tomatoes. I use Flavor Bomb cherry tomatoes from Wegmans, which I don't know how they do it, but they are the best cherry tomatoes in the world.
Perfect.
So now you can see how it's all crisped up. We're going to take it out of there, and you can see all the fat in the pan, and we're going to set that aside. I actually made some greens and beans as well, and I put that on the side so people could throw it in the greens and beans, because the greens and beans I made are meatless. We have some vegetarians in the family. Here comes the onions into that delicious pork fat, and now out of the oven comes the roasted vegetables. And you can see they got that char, and there's the garlic. And then we take that garlic after it cools a little bit, and we just kind of squeeze it out, and it just pops out into the pan.
Best part.
And I'm not really too worried about cutting things up too nicely here, because I'm going to blend it all together at some point here coming up. So I'm just loosely chopping it all up. And another way to make the bolognese would be just from the start to go with the onion and the garlic and the carrots and sometimes celery right into the pot to start without roasting them. But again, like I like roasting them. Now here comes the wine. You can see how there was some
heavy pour
of the stuff burnt to the bottom of the pot. So we're just going to deglaze it with that wine from Barrick Winery, and then in with the beef and in with the pork. And guess what's next? Probably sausage.
Sausage?
Hot Italian sausage. Yeah, there it is. And again, just chopping it up. I'm going to cook it down. It's really easy. There's no technique to it. A hefty amount of tomato paste is going in there. And we're just going to, again, bring that all to a boil, let that meat cook. We're going to throw some Italian seasoning in there.
George.
There's George. I think he makes another appearance here. So now I had put those cherry tomatoes in because the portobello mushrooms had to cook a little longer, so I threw the cherry tomatoes in to roast them with some salt and pepper. And then into the saucepan they go with all the juice from all those other vegetables. And again, we're just gonna let it all cook down. And there's George.
Quality
He's
control.
wondering what's going on.
Oh, look at how cute.
Yeah, he wants a treat. There you go, buddy. There you go, buddy. Good
Spoiled.
boy.
Good boy.
Nutmeg. I love to use nutmeg in
You sure do.
sauces. So a pretty healthy amount of nutmeg. And you can see it's all the liquid's boiling and everything's kind of melding together. Now I'm going to dice up those portobellos into small little cubes. And then they're going to go into the saucepan. There they go.
Every time you roast vegetables, I think of how I could just stop right there and just eat the whole pan of roasted vegetables.
I do do a little sampling. So now we got those whole San Marzano tomatoes into the pot, which is getting pretty full at this point. And then you just kind of break them up, and again, let that bring everything to a boil. And there, now here we go. Everything was so like roughly chopped up. It doesn't matter because and this takes probably about 5 minutes of blending to get everything nice and smooth and uniform, and you really can't pick out any individual carrot or pepper or tomato. That just all blends into one. This fresh oregano, I don't know if I mentioned that off the top, but put a little fresh cut oregano in there. Mix that in, but you can see now the consistency of it after blending it.
Yeah, looks perfect.
So good, so good. I mean, I sampled it about 20 times.
Right.
And then I have some fresh basil too, which I like to cut up really small. You don't want any long, stringy pieces of basil, but not a ton.
I'm so jealous just watching this because I can just tell it's going to be amazing. I wish I was there to try it.
Yeah, I was gonna bring some in, and I forgot.
Cool, awesome.
So anyways, pecorino romano, healthy dose of pecorino romano grated into the bolognese. And you can make bolognese a million different ways. This is just how I make it. And I don't always make it the same every time either. Because it was going into the lasagna, I didn't use a lot of as many tomatoes as maybe I would have if it was going on top of a pasta.
Right.
So there you go. I mean, that's basically the finished product there. See how it's kind of thick? Again, because it's going to be filler for lasagna. And so I'm going to make the lasagna next. And as part of the lasagna, I made just a normal tomato sauce like I normally would. And I prepared some, there's the bolognese, and I prepared ricotta with a little 3 parts ricotta, 1 part mascarpone, and some egg yolks, and then various cheeses. There's some fresh mozzarella. That fresh mozzarella went into the meatless lasagna. So I made about 5 or 6 of these these smaller lasagnas. That way, if we didn't get through it at the party, I could send some home with people.
Wow.
And yeah, the ricotta mixture, really good.
Some people are not fans of ricotta, and I just don't understand it.
Me neither. So it's basically layering at this point, and those are the Wegmans fresh cut lasagna sheets. And now this is a trick I do with bolognese. We're going to put a layer of sauce on top of there. Another time I'll show you how I make a simple sauce, and that's another thing that's changed for me over the years is how I make sauce a lot of different ways. I've just kind of settled on a way that I like the best, but this is a trick. Provolone slices before the bolognese layer to kind of protect the bottom ricotta from the grease of the meat. So
nice. Can't go wrong with adding more cheese.
No,
either.
It helps it stick. A little grated pecorino romano going, or Parmesan Reggiano going in there, and now the bolognese, and you can see how it's thick because it was for the lasagna. If you were going to dump that on top of pasta, it wouldn't work as well. But I'll show you something in a second. After a nice and heavy dose of the bolognese, and then more cheese, why not? And again, that just helps bind it a little bit too, more so than doing it for taste, because that bolognese is tasty enough. There's enough cheese in there as it is. Making lasagna.
I'm so hungry watching this. Seriously, it's such a tease.
Another layer, and now mozzarella goes on the top of that. Spread it around. And again, we're running out of pan space here. We're building a little too high. And then just a little more sauce on top of that. Not a lot. So a mistake I tended to make over the years making lasagna is I just make it too liquidy, too much sauce. So I've learned to scale it back a little bit.
In all your years, yeah.
Yep. And then we might as well go one more layer right on top of that. And this time I go sideways.
Fancy, fancy.
But I also have the remaining bolognese sauce on the side for people to put over the lasagna, and for that I actually cut it with some of this marinara sauce. Okay. So you'll see it does turn into actual more of a sauce that would go on a pasta. And so a little more cheese, why not? But not a ton. That's another thing I would make. It's too much cheese at the top, just too greasy, and then you cover it, end up baking that thing for 370. Baking it and then taking it off. Everybody knows how to cook lasagna, right? So you can see, look at the sauce there. That is after I've added like probably about 6 or 7 ladles of the tomato sauce into the bolognese, and it becomes more of like a sauce that you would put on top of your pasta. So, and oh man.
It looks perfect.
It is one of my favorite things I make is that bolognese sauce. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, but worth it, I think. And there you go.
I'm just like entranced in the screen and just so mad that you just happened to forget to bring it in.
I know I set some aside. I actually froze it because it's been almost a week now since I made it, and I was going to bring it in so we could taste it after, but I didn't. But you can imagine.
Oh yeah, I can. Watching it every morning we do this, what's cooking, I go back to my desk and I'm starving. Mm. But that was great, and obviously your family's super lucky that you went above and beyond to make all that food that whole week, whether it was Thanksgiving, whether it was the family dinners, and they always look like they turn out great.
Yeah, Jackie, my daughter, it was her 17th birthday. She's every year for her birthday, she wants lasagna for the family party.
I love it.
And just last night, she ate the last of the leftovers.
Good. That means, that you did a good job.
Yep, and what more... Like, I would not want to make that bolognese sauce in July.
No, it's more of that, like, hearty, going into winter comfort food that we're all ready for.
Yep.